we saw from the beginning of the year that there was a big push, I guess, to tell these large, looming interactive stories in a more cohesive way, like Snowfall did. It sort of set a tone, I guess, for the rest of the year.
So on the Mud projects, I saw that the overall baseline was really elevated from what I'm used to seeing online. And I think that the general reader experience from all of the designs that I saw in this competition has just been better. The pieces that really stood out because of their wonderful execution, right? The pieces were edited so that what I was looking at is exactly what I should be looking at. And it did not feel like I had to work hard to figure out, okay, what do I pay attention to next? Am I supposed to scroll now? Do I have to push a button to move down the page? It was the ones that made the whole experience seem seamless. In an effort to be more creative with data, people are just trying out different ways to visualize it or to use technology to show it online. And I think we're in that gestation process right now where people are still trying to figure out how to do it well, but at least we are trying to do it over and over again.
The most important thing for an app, a news site, or somebody who tries to engage in that way with its readers, knowing its user and knowing how they use the device.
There appeared to be a care and an attention to detail around photos, around typography, and around graphics that I felt was still reserved for print. Just going back to that Washington Post piece, the typography there is gorgeous. The photo selection there was one piece on cycling, sort of cycling after Lance Armstrong, and the photo editing was so sharp because the photos were amazing, but they were allowed to play at their sort of at an ideal size, which in many cases is the only way consumers are ever going to see that photo, because if they're not in DC, they're not picking up the post, they're not, and then you've got to deal with, the press run, and the paper, and all of these other factors that ultimately are the circumstances that conspire against even our best efforts to get that content in its sort of ideal state.
So Snowfall sort of set the standard, I suppose, that people wanted to aspire to, integrating in a deeply reported story, video, graphics, text, photos, other elements, basically kind of pushing the envelope there. And so that became kind of a standard. We're kind of realizing that this is actually what we do now, that the ones that are really successful are the ones that are thinking about the story as a whole, telling the story as a whole. So when the standard is set, essentially, or the expectation is set, then we find that the really remarkable work comes from the details, and the idea of applying design from concept, from the very, very beginning, through the actual production and publishing of the story, which is pretty incredible.